Hello everyone, this is Justin from Blackmodule Studio bringing you the first in a new set of Unity tutorials. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that I've recently started up a Patreon campaign in order to raise support for this new series of tutorial videos. If you enjoy this video and would like the series to continue, please consider heading over to Patreon and pledging. This is the first episode of the Unity Basics series, and I'll be going over game objects in Unity. Game objects are likely the most important object in Unity, and therefore it is very important to understand exactly what a game object is and how they can be used. Every object in your game is a game object that contains different components. Don't worry if you don't know what a component is yet, we'll get to that in another video. For now, just understand that they are basically special properties of a game object. Game objects are containers that hold components, but every game object contains at the minimum a transform component. The transform component holds data that determines the position, rotation, and scale of a game object. Other than the transform component, every game object also has a name, a tag, and a layer. The name is just that. It's the name of the specific game object. Names are not unique, so you can have many objects with the same name. We'll cover tags and layers in another video. Just know that game objects can be assigned a tag and a layer. One final note about the transform component is that it also allows parenting. When a game object has a parent object, it is a child to that parent. Whenever changes are made to the transform of the parent, all the children receive those same changes. Another benefit of parenting is that it helps organize game objects in the hierarchy view, as all children are able to be collapsed under the parent object. So let's go ahead and walk through creating a game object. There are a variety of ways a game object can be created. The first way we will cover is by using the Game Object menu at the top of the editor. If you open the menu, you will see that you can click the Create Empty option or press Ctrl-Shift-N to create an empty game object. Remember, this game object will only have a transform component attached to it. There is also the Create Other option. This will allow you to create a game object that has several different components already attached. As an example, the Cube option will already have Mesh Filter, Box Collider, and Mesh Render components attached to it. The next way to create a game object is by clicking on the Create button in the hierarchy view. This will provide the same options as clicking the Create Other option from the Game Object menu. The final way to create a game object that I will cover in this tutorial video is via script. Sometimes you may need to create a game object dynamically. Fortunately, it is extremely easy to do so. Here is a simple script that will create an empty game object dynamically. Now that we can create game objects, we likely want to do something with them. As a project grows in size, things can become a bit cluttered. As a quick tip, in order to easily find your game object in the scene view, just select it in the hierarchy view, then press the F key. This hotkey moves the scene view camera and focuses it on the selected game object. Now that we have our game object selected and focused, let's go ahead and manipulate it. Our game object has a transform component, so that is what we will adjust. In the inspector, you can change the values that represent the position, rotation, and scale along the X, Y, and Z axes. It is nice to be able to type in exact values if you need that level of control, but that may not always be the case. If you just need to move something into a general location, the scene view is where you will want to work. By default, the position handles will be shown on a selected game object. In order to change the handles to rotation handles or scale handles, just click the corresponding button at the top of the editor and you will see the handles change. Keep in mind, if you're in 2D mode, the changes cannot be made to the Z-axis via the scene view. The last thing we will cover is deactivating game objects. A game object can be deactivated, which temporarily disables it or removes it from the scene. When a game object is selected, there is a checkbox to the left of its name in the inspector. It should be checked by default, which indicates that the game object is active. By unchecking it, we disable the game object. If a game object is a parent object, deactivating it will also deactivate all of its children. This doesn't actually change the value of the children's active property, so reactivating the parent will also reactivate all of the children game objects. In order to dynamically change whether or not a game object is active, we have access to the ActiveSelf property via script. This property is a boolean, which means it can either be true or false. Once we have a reference to the game object, changing this value is as simple as setting the property to true or false. So using our previously created game object, we can do this in script. Now our game object will be deactivated. That covers our tutorial on the basics of game objects. Check in next week where we will cover the basics of components in Unity. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Also, please consider supporting the creation of these Unity tutorials by becoming a patron. As always, thanks for watching.